and welcome back to our texturing videos for our character. In this video I'm going to show you how to apply paint in Mudbox. So this can be one way you can add color to your character. I'm just going to show you a few simple things to do. So just applying simple colors and nothing fancy. We'll start with just the pants. So I'm just going to do it on the pants with this one. And I'm going to right click and go to assign new material. I'll give my material a name, so just pants or pants material, and I can change the color. Now since I've already got the palette for my pants that I created before, if I went into Photoshop and got the numeric value, I can put that in, or I can just roughly guess what the color would be. So just using the sliders to find the color that I'd want. Okay, so once I've found something I'm happy with, I can click done, and I can close that tab, and you can see that it is applied a pant material into the viewport manager there. So if I go back into my layers manager, I can make sure that paint is selected. When I go create new layer, I can then go create new layer, I should say, and I can name it whatever, so pants diffuse. Make sure that the texture size is correct, and I want to make sure that I'm using a TGA or a Targa. Okay, so whenever we create a texture, it is always a TGA or Targa unless otherwise specified. Okay, so it is the diffuse channel as well, so I just want to make sure that it is painting in the diffuse channel, and then we've got all of our color and all what have you over on the side here. So I'm just going to go in and pick the color that I want to use with my palette. So I'm just going to get the color coordinates this time, so just select it, and when I've got my color picker up, I can get the RGB values there. So I'll just take note of those, and I can go into my where is it? I can select my color, make sure my paintbrush is selected, that would help. So just in the paint tools, make sure paintbrush is selected, and then when you can go to color, which will bring up the color picker, and if you go on the numeric input, you can go RGB and you can put in the RGB values. So at the moment the range is set to 0 to 1, so you want to change that to 0 to 255, so you can use the values from Photoshop, since Photoshop is using 0 to 255, and then you can type in those values to get the color. And I've forgotten the last one, so yep, there we go, and then I can hit done. You can see that it's changed the color swatch over on the right. And we can flood paint layer there. So this will make the entire pants the main color that we've got selected in our palette. Which is why it really didn't matter what color we picked when we first created our material. We can always change it later using the flood paint layer tool. Okay, so now I can start to paint on my model. So I can just pick a stamp, and I've got randomize on here, so I can it'll basically just rotate and adjust the tool as I brush for every stroke or every brush stroke that I create. It'll randomize. So then I can start to color in. Now I'm only using this as a rough base for when I paint in Photoshop. So I'm just painting in where the shadows would be and things like that to help give me a guide. But you can of course paint your entire model in here and then just do touch-ups in Photoshop. However you want to work is okay. But like I said, I'm just going to show you just a few little things that you can do. So just using the paintbrush tool and different stamps, you can get different effects. Now of course, just like when you're sculpting, you can mirror across your body, just using the mirror. At the moment I'm not going to, so I'm just using it off because the pants are asymmetrical. And now in order to get to the inside of the leg, I'm just going to hide this leg for now. So the same way as I did when I was sculpting, I'm just going to select it using my select and move tool, so the faces, paint as much as that I can that I want to hide, and then I'll just go up to display and hide selected. Okay, you can see here I've switched from, I'm actually using the burn tool here just to darken up some of the shadow areas, so I'm just laying down where they would be. But you can just play with all these tools as well to get the look and feel that you want. Again, holding shift will smooth out whatever you're working on. And now I'm going to try using the airbrush. So the airbrush will basically build up color. So just save regularly so you don't lose any of your work. and also just trying different stamps and what have you, in order to get the look and feel that I want within the pants themselves. So just laying down colour at the moment. You can see that with this brush, the airbrush, can be a little bit hard to see here, but with this airbrush and this stamp I'm getting a speckled type of look here, which helps add to the idea of cloth. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to paint on the pants here to get to build up the colour and to define where the shadows would be, and maybe even a bit of the highlights, and to help me understand where the folds will be also when I take it into Photoshop. So I'm just going to speed up this part of the video, so you're not going to sit here and watch me do every brush stroke, just to save time. Okay. Okay, so now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to, like I did before, in order to get the pants out, but this time I'm going to turn off normal map and do transfer maps only. So basically what I'm doing is taking the color that I just laid on to my high-res model, I'm going to transfer to my low-res model. So I'm going to use the same setup as I did with the normal map, but this time I'm going to put, I turned off normal and I selected transfer color maps. So now I can go to, you can do this if you want, but this is why I also put on a default grey map before I took it into Mudbox, you can go to send to Mudbox, send to Max, I should say. So the same way as you send to Mudbox, you can send back to Max, and it will automatically update the material with the map you just created. So you can see here that it's applied it to the model. And we can do the same with the boot. So I'm just bringing that in again. Because I think I deleted it before, but anyway. Bringing that in, I'm just having a look at the concept and getting the color from there. I can add a bit more detail to the boot, so just with material presets I'm just going to select anything, it doesn't really matter, so I'll just pick this one. Just having a look to see which ones look good. Very shiny gumboot. And I'll create a new paint layer. And I'll get the palette color, just like before with the pants. So just doing the same thing. Using the flood paint layer to get the whole boot colored in. Okay, so this time I'm using a stencil. So what these will do is basically act like a projection, so you can see how it puts the stencil up over the entire screen. If I start to paint over the top of that, it'll project the stencil onto the boot. So if I find a leather texture like this one, I can take my airbrush tool and I can start to paint over the top of that, so using a darker color a little bit, maybe. We can also use this when we're sculpting to sculpt in this detail. But I'm just going to paint it in for now. Once I'm happy with that, I will extract my maps the same way as I did with the pants. So with the first I'll have to transfer it onto the lower res mesh. So again, I'll create a new texture thing. I'll apply my target and source models. Set my map size. Make sure it's compatible with 3D Studio Max. Set my file path and name. Make sure it's at preview as normal. And make sure that also not just normal is selected, but transfer maps is as well. So right up the top, transfer paint layers. Of course you can turn off the normal if you choose, or you can do them both at the same time, or both is acceptable. So with this one, take a few seconds to think about it, and then it's projected onto the low res model. And again, like the pants, it's saved out the model, the texture into your file, and you can open it up in Photoshop. Okay, with those things done, we'll pick up in the next video.